When I started self-publishing my romance novels in late 2019, there was an overwhelming amount of information online about how much money you could earn as an indie author. The reality was very different. So today I'm opening up about how much I earn as an indie author and giving you an idea of what you can expect as you embark on your indie author journey. So if that sounds good, keep watching. Hi, I'm Andrea. If you're new here, welcome. Welcome back to all of my lovely returning friends. It's great to have you all here. I am a full-time writing instructor at a university and a part-time content creator and indie author with 9 published novels out and working on the 10th novel as I'm filming this. So I've got a few books under my belt now and I feel ready finally to put my story out there, so to speak, my experience out there about how much I earn as an indie author. I am going to be doing this a little bit differently than other videos that you've seen like this for a few reasons. So I'm going to be focusing this video on how much I earn per book in all of the different formats that my books are available in. I'm not going to be giving you specific numbers for my monthly totals or my annual totals or anything like that. Those are so heavily personalized to each individual author. So I'm going to be sharing kind of how I approach my book sales that can impact having more sales or less sales than other authors so that you can get an idea based on a representative sample of what I earn per book to figure out if you price your book similarly, what you're going to have to do to earn whatever income goal you have in mind. And I'll be breaking down some of those potential income goals as I go along. A few things to be aware of. I am not published wide, so I am exclusive only to Amazon at this moment. My books are available in print on demand for paperback, in Kindle, and they are enrolled in the Kindle Unlimited program. People who subscribe to Kindle Unlimited can read my books for free. I don't run any ads. I don't run any Facebook ads, Instagram ads, Amazon ads. That will definitely impact your sales. If you learn how to do ads properly, that can help get you more sales. But you're then factoring in your ad spend and having to deduct that from your earnings to figure out what your actual net income is. So I don't do ads, so I'm not going to be able to give advice on that. As far as social media and how I do market my books, I am on Instagram, here on YouTube, and I also have a Facebook page. I don't really use the Facebook page, so YouTube and Instagram are the main ways that I market my books, as well as my lovely readers who post about my books and tell their friends and coworkers and families about my books and spread the word through good old-fashioned word of mouth. So those are a few things specific to me that might yield you similar results or better results if you do things a little bit differently than me. Publishing your books wide is a great idea. That's something I wish I had done from the beginning. It will now be a bit of hassle to take my books wide. It is a long-term goal, but I'm not there yet. So tip number 1, if I'm giving tips in this video, which I kind of will be, but tip number 1, get your own ISBNs and publish your books wide. That will give you the most income earning potential. Also, do your own research on ads. I do know authors, every author I know of who is a 5 or 6 figure author does utilize ad spending to help promote their books. So I think ads are especially important if you're not naturally good at organic content marketing on social media. So I don't do ads, I only do content marketing. That's kind of the disclaimers and the explanation here at the beginning. There will be timestamps for everything that I'm going to be discussing down below, as well as chapters if you hover over the timeline for the video. So feel free to jump ahead to whatever sounds interesting to you or jump back and forth through the video. If there's something you really want to know and can't wait, you can jump ahead and then come back. But for now, let's start with the breakdown of how much I earn per book for Kindle and paperback. And by the way, I'm looking down at my laptop screen where I've got all of my notes just to try to keep me on track because I am a very chatty person. So ebook breakdown. My Kindle books range from between $4.99 and $6.99. My royalty calculation is typically 70%, but it can be 35% for sales in certain territories. So there are times, even though I generally earn 70% after the delivery cost per book, sometimes it's 35%. My royalty for a Kindle book has been as low as around $1.70. ish, and as much as $4.80 ish. So off the like $6.99, I'm earning a little bit less than $5 off of those sometimes, with an average royalty probably of around $3.80 per book, since not all of my Kindle books are priced the same. We'll talk about pricing strategy in a moment. The paperback breakdown. My paperbacks range from $15.24 to $17.24. The royalty calculation for paperbacks in Amazon KDP is 60% of the list price, then minus the printing cost. So it's 0.60 times 15 minus the 5 equals $4. Expanded distribution is 40%. So by the same math, you'd earn $1 on your $15 book. And this has happened. It is always, expanded distribution is great because it does mean my book is available to people in other ways. I believe this is when someone gets my book through another retailer and that retailer is ordering through Amazon. So basically what happens then, Amazon wants their cut, that other retailer wants a cut as well, so my cut is the one that gets smaller. I will say I rarely get books sold through expanded distribution. I think I've only had like 1 or 2 in this entire year. So it doesn't happen often. So I do check that box because I'd rather sell a book for $1 and know that there's at least one book out there in the world for someone who otherwise wouldn't have been able to get it without expanded distribution, but it is always a little bit sad when I see that. The reason why some of my books are priced at $15 or $17.24 is because when they increased their printing cost, it added about 25 cents to the printing cost of each book, and Amazon let us do a kind of one-time bulk update where they automatically changed our prices for us to make sure that we maintained the same royalty split and got the same royalties as before their price increase. So all of my books went up, all my paperbacks went up by about 25 cents. I'm probably at some point going to bump those back down to $14.99 and $16.99. I think when my most recent book, The Farm Shop of Second Chances, went out, I think that one is at $16.99, or it's at a 99-cent total price, $15.99, $16.99, something like that. I'm just going to eat those 25 cents. The 24 cents is a bit irritating. It doesn't look as nice as 99 cents. So that's why that is the way that it is. My royalties for paperbacks don't fluctuate as much as the Kindle books. I average about $4.50 per paperback sale. One of the reasons why the ebooks can fluctuate a little bit more is because of that 35% royalty. I just know that I emailed once because I was like, why is this at the lower royalty? And I was told it's because they purchased it from a different territory. Make it make sense. I will say, just as a addition really quick, generally, I've been very happy with how book sales and stuff works on Amazon. I don't really have any massive complaints, but every now and then there's a little weird thing that I'm just like, why is it like that? My pricing strategy. I have 2 book series and 1 standalone. For my Across the Pond series, which is my London-based contemporary romance, on Kindle, books 1 through 3 increase by $1 for the first 3 books for the Kindle, and then book 4 is set as the same price as book 2. So book 1 is always the lowest. And then for the paperbacks of Across the Pond, books 1 through 3 I believe are set at $17.24, but when I published book 4 I put that at $16.99. For my cozy small town romance series, Independent Hearts, all of the paperbacks are $4.99 and all of the paperbacks are $15.24. When I started Across the Pond, that was the first series that I did, it was common to see series do that gradient pricing where they get a little bit more expensive with each book. So I started doing that, continued doing that. When I started publishing Independent Hearts, I decided to just let all of them be the same price. I haven't noticed a difference. I don't feel like one series sells drastically more than the other, so you can keep that in mind as you price your books. More Than Fate, which is my standalone that I co-wrote with my friend Tamsin, Kindle is $4.99 and the paperback was $15.24. When it comes to pricing strategy, every author has to kind of decide this for themselves. I recommend looking at other books in your genre, particularly other books in your genre published by other indie authors. You are not going to be competing with the big name traditionally published authors. So just because they're charging more doesn't mean you should charge more. You don't want to charge too much less, but like it's very common in the traditional market that I see Kindle books priced at between $9.99 and like $14.99. $10 to $15 is really expensive for an ebook, considering you're not actually buying the Kindle copy. You're buying a license to have that copy on your Kindle for as long as the author makes that book available and for as long as Amazon decides it wants to continue selling it. If either or both parties decide to change their agreement, your book will get yanked off your Kindle. So I know as a reader, my personal goal is I really won't pay more than $7 for an ebook. And even then I'm like thinking very carefully. It's why book one in both series is priced the lowest, because I want people to have a more affordable entry point. People tend to be more willing, and I'm the same way as a reader, to pay more for a book 3 or 4 in a series, because if I get to that point, I know I like the series. I know I want to keep reading. So that's another thing. When you're doing series, eventually you do want to lower your book 1 down a little bit lower to entice more people to give that series a try, and then hopefully they keep reading it. So it is a very tricky balance to price your books affordably and competitively while still earning something for my effort as the writer, especially because as an indie author, I'm doing everything. So in my case, I'm very much a DIY indie author. I do everything myself. I do the writing, the editing, the copy editing, the formatting, the proofreading, the cover design, all the marketing, everything. I don't outsource a single step. Other authors do outsource different steps, and so they are investing money that they then hope to get back. For your first book, I always recommend not investing more money into your book than you can afford to just outright lose, because you're really not going to earn anything off of your first book. The real earnings don't start until you've got at least a few books out, and until you've kind of learned how the whole marketing game and everything like that works. So the KU breakdown, how Kindle Unlimited works out. Authors are paid per page that someone reads, and Amazon sets the price per page based on the number of monthly subscribers in the Kindle Unlimited Global Fund. And when you log into your KDP account, you will see at the very bottom how much is in the Global Fund that month. It varies each month, and the per page cost can go up or down each month. And you can also, on your sales dashboard, in the royalties estimator, you can tell it to estimate based on the last month's page, rate, or estimate a decrease in that. I usually have it estimate a decrease because I'd rather end up earning more money than I thought than less money. Authors are not paid if someone rereads the book. This is really frustrating. So if someone reads your book 2 or more times, you don't get paid anything beyond that first read. So I would say if you are someone who subscribes to Kindle Unlimited and you read an author and you really like their book after reading it the first time in Kindle Unlimited, it might be a nice thing for the author if you then buy the Kindle or the paperback the next time you feel like sitting down and reading that book. Or not. It's up to you as the consumer. You can do whatever you want. If your ebook is enrolled in Kindle Unlimited, you cannot make your ebook available in any other marketplace. So you can publish wide with your paperback, but you can't publish wide with your ebook if your ebook is enrolled in Kindle Unlimited. You can enroll for 90 days and then unenroll before the next 90-day period starts. So some authors will take their books in and out of Kindle Unlimited, or they might do a 90-day rollout on Kindle Unlimited when the book first comes out and then unenroll from KU and then take their ebook wide at that point. So there's a few different strategies. All of this leads to the question of, is KU worth it as an indie author? Your mileage may vary, everyone's opinion is different. So typically you're earning between 0.001 and 0.004 cents per page. That's kind of the least I've earned and the most I've earned. Pricing calculations get really complicated and the amount per page fluctuates based on that Global Fund amount each month. You're gonna have good months and bad months. The month that my most recent book launched, just for like some reference, I had over 40,000 page reads that month and that equated to about $36. So if you do the math at 0.001 or even at 0.004 cents per page, you have to get a ton of page reads to earn even just $100. Some authors and some genres can do really, really well in KU. Other authors, other genres don't do as well. I'd say fantasy, sci-fi, and romance tend to do really, really well in KU. Fantasy and sci-fi because those books tend to have more pages in them, and romance because romance readers, especially KU romance readers, will read like a book every day or two. And so they are just plowing through. And if you've got a whole series and they just want to read through that whole series, then you could earn a decent amount off of just one reader off of your whole series. So it does vary. On average, I make a little over $1 if someone borrows a book through KU and reads the whole thing. Based on an average sale of $4 per book, and again, bearing in mind that even the averages can fluctuate, you'd have to sell 250 books just to maybe make around $1,000 in a month. That's assuming that your books are priced similarly to mine and that you are getting more sales of like paperbacks or your more expensive Kindle books. If someone's buying your ebook at $3.99 and you're only earning $2 or $2.30, you're gonna have to sell even more than 250 copies to get to $1,000 a month. With KU pages, trying to do the math to figure out how many pages to earn $1,000 a month is a lot harder. But if we base it on 0.0039 cents per page, you would have to have at least 250,000 pages. When I did the math, it was 256,410 pages. You would most likely need more, which divided by an estimate of 400 pages per book, which is probably higher than what my books average in Kindle Unlimited pages. My books would have to get borrowed 641 times to get that many pages to earn at least $1,000 a month. That's a lot. So again, I think you can see how important marketing becomes. And this is how the people who claim to be earning 6 and 7, high 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures per year, they are also spending 5 or 6 figures per year on their ad spend. Income minus expenses, they're not actually taking home 7 figures, if that makes sense. The other thing to keep in mind is the unpredictability of royalties. The difference between 70% and 35% is completely unpredictable. It's really, really hard. I've noticed that I can sell 10 copies of the same ebook set at the same price and earn a completely different amount depending on the percentage. There's just a lot that can make this complicated. So it's not as simple as this book costs this much money and I earn this percentage from it. There's a lot of different factors. So you can earn a drastically different amount depending on the territory that it's purchased in, depending on things like expanded distribution, depending on format, paperback versus ebook, and that will all have an impact on that final royalty amount that comes to you. Also, the price you get per page in KU fluctuates, as I said, so you can get the same number of page reads 2 months in a row, but get completely different royalty amounts. And when you're dealing with large numbers of page reads, so if you have like 200,000 pages read 1 month and 200,000 pages read the next month, but the price differs by 0.002 cents, like say from 0.001 to 0.003, or if it was 0.004 and then drops down that next month to 0.001, the way that differs off of the same number of 200,000 page reads, that's going to add up to a decent chunk of money. For some authors, that can be the difference of hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to their bottom line each month. So if you're only getting 500 or 1,000 or even 10,000 page reads per month, you're probably going to notice a fluctuation of like 50 cents up to a few dollars. But if you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of page reads per month, even if you're getting consistent numbers of page reads each month, the price difference that you get could differ quite drastically. Another factor to keep in mind is series versus standalones. So when I started researching being an indie author, one of the first pieces of advice that I saw was write a series. Why is this? Read-through potential in a series is huge. If you can hook someone with a first book in a series, they are more likely to continue reading every other book in the series. Anecdotally, I have definitely noticed this to be true. I can tell based on how much each book in a series has sold that there is a certain percentage. There's an expected drop off from book 1 to book 2, but there is read through, both in terms of book sales in both ebook and paperback format, as well as in KU page reads. The number of total page reads for each book in a series does drop, but that drop is equal to, it's a similar percentage to that drop in the paperbacks. So some of the read-through stats specifically for my 2 series, roughly 1/3 of the people who buy book 1 buy book 2, but then more than half of people who buy book 2 have gone on to buy books 3 and 4. And for Independent Hearts, it's a little bit higher. Just under half who have read book 1 go on to read book 2, but more than 75% who read book 2 have gone on to read book 3, and so far book 4 is holding up to that number. So once I get them past book 2, even more people read. With More Than Fate, it's really hard to tell if anyone has gone on to read any of my other books after that. I do feel like a lot of people, after they read through all of one or both of my series, they then will go back and read More Than Fate. But for someone who starts with More Than Fate, I really don't have any way of tracking the data of then how many of them go on to read any of my other books. Another factor that impacts More Than Fate is it's a bit of an anomaly in my back catalog in that it was co-written with my friend who's 20 years younger than me, and there's a 20-year age difference between the 2 main characters. So if a reader identifies more with Macy's storyline, which is the 20-year-old, than with Isla's storyline, which is the 40-year-old that I wrote, they might not be tempted to read my other books. But if the reader is older and identifies more with the Isla character, then they are probably going to resonate more with the characters in Across the Pond, and definitely with the characters in Independent Hearts. So that's another factor that kind of influences that. So series are really important. You will build up that readership, and I will say my monthly totals and my annual totals have definitely gone up each year. There can be some fluctuation within a year, but year on year they're definitely getting higher. This year, my total income that I've earned, still not enough to quit my day job, so we're not talking quit your day job money, but it is higher than it was last year. At this point in October, so with 2 months left of the year, I have already beaten my 2024 sales totals. So it's small progress, but it's progress, and I will take it. But again, I've been publishing for nearly 6 years. So I've said this in almost every indie author focused video I've done. You are not going to get rich and quit your day job in your first year of being an indie author off of your first book that you publish. I'm 6 years in, 9 books in. I still have my full-time day job. I'm still working my backside off to write and publish these books, and it is getting better. You know, I'm gaining traction, there's forward movement, all of that stuff, but it takes a while, and you have to be committed to kind of that long haul. At this point, 9 books in, I probably could start doing some standalones and they might do okay, but as a first book that I published, that would have been very, very difficult. And even though A Brave Start was not originally written to be a series, one of the reasons I chose that book of the 2 unpublished manuscripts that I had at the time was that it could be a standalone. So if I put it out and decided this was way too hard and I didn't want to continue, I could have just stopped and it would have been fine. I wouldn't have pissed anyone off. But there was room to expand it and turn it into a series if I did decide I liked this and wanted to continue, which is exactly what I did. Another thing that's worth noting is that my first book, A Brave Start, which came out in December of 2019, so it's almost 6 years old now, has started to sell more. So that book is still selling with every other book that I sell. It's still my highest selling book of all of them. And there's been an increase of sales in that book year on year. So I've sold more copies of it this year than I did last year. So it's not only continuing to sell, it gets better and better every year. And again, that then increases my read through throughout the rest of the series. And so with each series, the previous books in the series also see an uptick in sales around the time that the next book in series is starting to come out. So book series versus standalones do make a difference. In conclusion, trying to wrap this up, all of this to say it is probably a good argument for why you should publish wide, or at least have that option. So for example, invest in your own ISBN from the beginning, even if you want to just start on one platform. You aren't going to make quit your day job levels of income from your writing in your first year or off of your first book. There are a lot of videos out there on how to get started publishing, particularly on Amazon KDP, but there are other publishing platforms you can use, and it does have this kind of get rich quick scheme feel about it. Please ignore those because they are not accurate. I think if you are someone who has a natural affinity for marketing, especially if you understand how to do social media ads on Facebook or Instagram, also learning how to do Amazon ads, those things are also going to really help you. Not all book sales are created equal, so hitting a revenue target is a lot more complicated than just sell X number of books or get X number of page reads. Because the price can vary per book, because the cost per page in the Global Fund varies per month, your sales numbers and targets are going to go up and down just to try to earn the same amount of money each month. Even when you do have good months, you're probably not surviving off your book royalties alone. Most indie authors I know have other income streams. They're coaches, they're developmental editors, they do beta reading or manuscript evaluations, they have membership communities, they have a Patreon. So for example, I have YouTube and Patreon. I used to have a coaching business that's currently on pause. Other indie authors sometimes also sell merchandise and things like that. And a lot of us have full-time jobs that are completely separate from our writing. So some people manage to earn additional income while still being in a kind of writing and author adjacent space, like editing services or coaching services, but then some have a totally disconnected day job. So final thoughts for writers. Writing is amazing and I will never give it up. I love writing. I need to write like I need air to breathe. Like I'm in this for the long haul. But publishing is really, really hard. And if money is your main motivation, you're gonna burn out really quick. So you really can't get into this purely for the money. The money needs to be a bonus. And obviously I am working very hard to earn more from my books year on year because I would like this to eventually earn me a decent amount of money, but that is not my main motivation. My main motivation is to write stories that I love, that I'm passionate about. I'm writing the stories that I want to read. I do reread my books after I publish them, usually about a year after I publish it. And I do it for the responses of the readers, the people who tell me I'm their favorite author or that they're counting down until my next book comes out. As I'm talking about Across the Pond 5, which will be my release next year, there are so many people who are DMing me and commenting on posts and saying, you know, on the YouTube videos, how much they can't wait to read this one. it is still at least several months away from launching, but that just makes it so much more exciting to sit down and work on it each day. Whereas if I was thinking only about money, it'd be really hard to sit down and want to write each day. And then final thoughts for readers, because I know there's going to be a lot of you lovely readers who are watching this. Every purchase and page read is so important to every author, but especially to every indie author who doesn't get an advance from a publisher before they even publish the book. The more people who read my books, the more visibility that I have. So I do frequently get asked, what format is the best way for someone to read my book so that I get the most royalties? Paperbacks are always going to be the most royalties in my pocket, but Kindle is going to be cheaper for you as the reader than the paperback, and Kindle Unlimited, if you're subscribed to it, is going to be the most affordable for you of all the options, even though that will be the least amount of royalties for me. I want you to get my books or any other indie author's books in whatever format fits your budget. But if you like it, tell all your friends and recommend it to everyone and post about it on social media, because if you reading it for the equivalent of $1 through Kindle Unlimited, but then you tell 5 friends and 2 of those friends go on to buy the Kindle or the paperback, then your $1 page reads have led to $6 or $7 worth of royalty from those other 2 sales. So all of that makes a difference. I want you to read my books in whatever format is best for you, even if it means less royalties for me, because the most important thing for me is that people are reading these books and are falling in love with these characters and are wanting to read the next book in the series or are telling their friends about the books. You being able to read my books is what matters the most. So I hope this has been interesting. There are plenty of authors, and if you search how much you can earn as an indie author, you will find other channels that will detail like how much they've earned in a particular month or in a particular year. But I haven't seen anyone do a breakdown quite like this, where you're looking at the royalties per book and per format and talking about how all of that can fluctuate and how that can impact your monthly and annual totals. So yeah, this was how I felt comfortable contributing to this topic on YouTube. So I hope it's been interesting. If you've made it this far, you can leave me some book emojis in the comments to let me know which one of you lovely people have made it all the way to the end of this vlog. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I can always do a follow-up answering specific questions related to book royalties and earnings and splits and things like that. So yeah, if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. I normally do really cozy, chatty author vlogs, writer vlogs, life vlogs, things like that. I don't normally do sit down chatty videos like this, but I do them occasionally. But yeah, if cozy writing vlogs are your thing, definitely subscribe if you're not subscribed. Links to all of my stuff, my newsletter, my Patreon, all of my books are in the description box below. And yeah, I will see you down in the comments to chat about books and royalties and things like this. And I will see you all very soon in the next vlog. Thank you very much for watching this video. Bye!